right, thank you for joining the Afridamus Report. Ladies and gentlemen, we have news. This is from a few days ago from Minnesota. So the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, have proposed to revoke TPS. If you don't know what that means, Temporary Protective Service, that was given to the Somalis, meaning, it's for people who have, like, let's say, wars or natural disasters in their various nations. And this is supposed to be temporary till they get things fixed in their nations. But the Somalis, they've been on it for 30 years. So, a lot of things have happened where now the president have announced that they are going to remove, the protective status for Somalis. You guys know they removed it for Venezuelans, Haitians, and for the Somalis, a series of things have happened that led up to this. So we're going to uncover all of that here on this news. So without further ado, let me let you hear, about the news coming out of Minnesota. Here we go.
President Trump about Somalis living in Minnesota.
Tonight, the president posted on Truth Social, quote, "I am, as president of the United States, hereby terminating, effective immediately, the temporary protected status for Somalis in Minnesota. Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of that great state, and billions of dollars are missing. Send them back to where they came from," end quote. Now, we're working to learn the legality of the president's plan and the potential impact.
We know Minnesota has the largest Somali population in the United States, with the last estimate by Minnesota Compass at more than 79,000 people. Callum Gray is working on this in the newsroom, and Callum, reaction is coming in fast tonight.
That's right. Just in the last hour, Governor Walz responding, saying, quote, "It is not surprising the president has chosen to broadly target an entire community. This is what he does to change the subject," end quote. Congressmember Ilhan Omar also pushing back, posted on X, quote, "I am a citizen, and so are majority of Somalis in America. Good luck celebrating a policy change that really doesn't have much impact on the Somalis you love to hate. We are here to stay."
So, if you look at, for example, with the comments from Ilhan Omar or the governor, like, for example, Ilhan Omar have been someone who, she basically, like, turns, the president turns the American people. So they have, in this nation, people have collections of what Ilhan Omar, some of the things she says, very disrespectful, ungrateful. And, sometimes, I just look at it like, man, this is crazy. These are some of the times that, you have to be quiet. But Ilhan Omar, honestly, this type of comments, I don't think this would even help the case of the Somalis, because in case she and others have not been paying attention, the wind have shifted. So I think she probably thinks she got a lot more support, but she definitely don't. But let's hear more here.
According to National Immigration Forum, as of October, there were 705 people from Somalia in the U.S. with TPS, and we're working to get the total count here in Minnesota. Temporary protected status is meant for those whose home countries are experiencing civil unrest, violence, or natural disasters. Somali immigrants have been eligible since 1991. The Department of Homeland Security says this was most recently extended through March of next year. Homeland Security has the discretion to designate a country for TPS for periods of 6 to 18 months and can extend it if the country continues to meet the conditions.
So as you can see, the HS Secretary, Christine Nome, she has the discretion. So obviously, if you know who she is, and she's appointed by Trump, and she definitely, even prior to Trump coming into office this time around, I have videos of her. She herself did vlogging. She went to the border. She's interviewed Somalis, that some of the Somalis that were even coming through the border. So, you know how this is going to go, right? She's going to revoke it. But I'm just giving you a little history about, this is very, very recent, less than a week old.
conditions for designation. I just spoke with Julia Decker with the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. She explained typically TPS terminations have to be posted on the Federal Register before the date the country's designation is set to expire. I just checked Homeland Security's website in the last few minutes, and Somalia is still listed. Decker also explained this is not done state by state, so the federal government will have to end TPS for all Somali immigrants, not just those here in Minnesota. The Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations tonight says this will tear families apart, calling it a political attack based on hateful rhetoric and urging the president to reverse the decision. But Republicans are praising the announcement. Republican State House Speaker Lisa Damuth, who is running for governor, shared the president's post saying, quote, President Trump is right. Fraud is out of control and unacceptable. Going on to say anyone involved in these criminal activities should be swiftly deported if they are not lawfully present in the U.S. Republican House Majority Whip Tom Emmer tonight thanked the president. Kevin.
Okay, that's Kellen Gray. Now, Minnesota's Republican delegation in Congress, including Tom Emmer, shared a letter with us that they just sent to U.S. Attorney for Minnesota Daniel Rosen. And in this letter, they're asking for an investigation into Governor Walz's, quote, inaction and improper handling of fraud.
They're also asking for Rosen to look into reports Minnesota taxpayer dollars are ending up in the hands of the al-Shabaab terrorist network in Somalia. A source in the U.S. Attorney's Office tells us they don't have an exact dollar amount. However, says, quote, al-Shabaab controls much of Somalia and imposes a tax on all financial activity in the areas it controls. So a decent amount of feeding our future and other fraud money almost certainly ended up in the hands of al-Shabaab indirectly, end quote. Stay with 5.
All right. So you're hearing that. So speaking about fraud, which actually triggered this whole thing about Somali community in Minnesota. So I'm going to show you another clip here where they did investigations, and there has been a lot of Somalis who have been involved in the various scams that have taken place in Minnesota. So let me show you a little bit of that, and then we'll get straight into another video here showing, like the Somalis coming together to try to protest this. But this is a serious issue because, in Minnesota, even the local news, it's been even since 2020 up until now, they've done lots of investigations, and a lot of bunch of Somalis have gotten arrested over this fraud that they speak of. So speaking about fraud, let's hear from the News Nation here.
A massive fraud scheme uncovered in Minnesota found money intended for social services has been allegedly siphoned indirectly into the pockets of the Somali terrorist group al-Shabaab. Somali immigrants in Minnesota have reportedly been abusing systems meant to help the most unfortunate among us, including the latest federally funded autism services. The autism fraud scheme reportedly amassed $14 million through Medicare claims for services that were never provided, involving kids who never had autism. And the Somali immigrants behind this web of schemes have allegedly stolen billions from taxpayers, much of the money going back to the Somali government, where it would then end up in the hands of terrorists. Manhattan is.
So, as you heard here, they are saying the fraud. For example, if you look at it, even because this is all documented, by the way. So, when you look at it, even you would hear people say, oh, how come there is high autism number amongst Somalis? So apparently this is a fraud that is being ran. They would claim these kids are autistic, so it turns out they are not. So also they are following the money. They are seeing that this money is ending up in the hands of al-Shabaab, which is a terrorist group in Somalia. So this is not looking good here. Let's continue.
Investigative reporter Ryan Thorpe was one of the first exposing the schemes for their ties to terrorism. With us now, Ryan, a line from your story stuck out. The largest funder of al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer. And you cite an unnamed source for that. What is the evidence that all of this money that was taken and the billions upon billions of increased funding in Minnesota for social services ended up in Somalia?
Well, billions of dollars of government welfare money is missing in the state of Minnesota.
How do we define missing?
Well, the fraud is so bad that the U.S. Attorney's Office has come out and indicated that they believe their entire government programs, where the fraudulent claims outstrip the legitimate ones. There are cases where indictments have come down or guilty pleas are already in to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars that were fraudulently obtained, filing false claims alongside doctored paperwork. And the indictments are continuing to come.
So you're seeing this. This is like a ring, apparently over there in Minnesota, because you can see the Somalis entering the government. You have, well-known people like Ilhan Omar. And so it looks like these people are running welfare scheme, Medicaid scheme. This is a lot of money. So as you can hear, the man is saying, okay, the money is missing because they are entering key positions, coming up with, fake doctor documents so they can get hold of this money. So the investigation uncovered it. These are some of the people who have been arrested, either convicted or pled to the crime that has been alleged here.
And the U.S. Attorney's Office has made very clear that this is a network of fraud schemes stacked upon fraud schemes, and that while the true dollar figure in terms of stolen funds at this point isn't quite clear, it's safe to say that we're talking about billions of dollars.
Okay. It's pretty wild, some of the things that you lay out, including one group called Feeding the Future that went from getting $3.4 million in 2019 to $200 million 2 years later. They grew faster than NVIDIA. How did nobody see that? Or is it that people and the government and those who are supposed to be the watchdogs, like Tim Walz, like Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, there just weren't looking?
I think it's safe to say that there was a real unwillingness or inability among Democratic state officials in Minnesota to recognize some pretty obvious alarm bells here. All across these programs, claims were skyrocketing, absolutely spiraling out of control over a short period of time. And the reality is that the Somali community, which is where these large-scale fraud rings have been concentrated within this population in the state, it is a sizable voting bloc. It is a voting bloc you have to win if you're going to win political office in Minneapolis. And so I think that was likely.
So it looks like the Democrats over there, they look the other way because they need the Somali vote. The governor, Tim Walz, apparently he's also being investigated currently to see what is happening. So, it looks like everything is adding up because they have actual physical people in custody, as you can see. So it's like, it's like, okay, it's like a deal. The Democrats look the other way so they can get Somali votes to be in power, and the Somalis get to continue to do their thing, to make their billions that they are getting from the government. But Trump is saying, no, we are putting a stop to that.
A incentive here that made some people not want to look too closely at what's been going on.
Wow. And that would explain why now it's the U.S. attorney looking into it rather than the state law enforcement or state fraud investigators. Is there any indication, Ryan, as you get, and it's one of those things you drop an investigative piece, and then all of a sudden you get 1,000 more tips that this goes higher, like actually into state government? You get the last 30 seconds.
I can't confirm that. So I don't want to get out in front of my skis here. What I can say is that this story has generated additional tips, and it is something that we are continuing to look into as we push forward with our efforts to expose the fraud rings that have been taking advantage of the generosity of Minnesota taxpayers.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys see that, right? So this is one of the reasons that President Trump cited as to why he wants the Somalis out. So if you look at it, yes, the number might sound like it's small, like 700 here and there, but there is always a trick to what Trump does. So he's testing the water to see how far he can go with it. So that, this is why there is panic in the Somali community in Minnesota. So the news got there, and the Somali people, they gathered together to get support from the community. So let's find out. This was a couple days ago. Let's find out what the Somalis are saying about this news that is taking place, currently. So let's hear them out. And it's very interesting because in this news that you're about to see, you would hear the Somalis saying, yeah, we are here, we came here to stay. You see? So I'm not sure what kind of message they are trying to send to the American people, but I don't think the message is being received well. I don't know what they think the American people would think about this, because if it's temporary protective status, I don't think it's good to come in front of the cameras and say, no, we didn't come here temporarily. We came here to stay. I want you guys to hear this.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem was in the Twin Cities today, and tonight Noem says that there's no final decision made yet on whether to terminate the temporary protection status for the country of Somalia.
TPS is a program that was always meant to be temporary. It's a program that is put in place, and I believe for Somalia over 30 years ago, and will need to be evaluated to make sure that it comes and is always implemented in the process for which it was intended.
According to
several words used here. She put emphasis on it was meant to be temporary, and they are going to evaluate, meaning, come on. They've already decided what they will do with it. So let's hear.
A congressional research report, there are 705 Somali individuals covered by TPS nationwide. Minnesota has the largest Somali population in the country. Somalia's current temporary protected status extension runs through March of next year. Meantime, many Somalis gathered in Minneapolis today to publicly voice their opposition. Fox 9's Leon Purvis joining us tonight from Minneapolis. And Leon, what are they saying about the president's proposal?
Well, Kelsey, many people gathered at Carmel Mall, the heart of the Somali community, to support one another.
Manta, 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 Omani waiting, manta, 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 Omani waiting, manta.
Carmel Mall was packed on the fourth floor with people from the Somali community and people coming out in support. On Friday,
so you can see it's the Somalis are out there celebrating with food. I'm not sure if this is panic or they are celebrating, but there's food there, and you see the old white liberals over there with them. So I don't know if this is a protest or a celebration, but either way, that's what's taking place in this news clip here.
President Trump said that he would immediately terminate temporary deportation protections from Somalis living in Minnesota, blaming them for fraud in Minnesota.
We're not here by accident. We're here to stay forever.
So you hear that. He said they're not here by accident, so they're here to stay forever. And I don't know. So if you go online, there is plenty of other Americans who are not receiving this well, because if they came under a temporary program, you know. So for him to just come and say this in front of the camera, I think that's pretty crazy. Some things you don't have to say, but you know, I mean, it's gone. Somali, they are like, hey, you can't do anything. We are here to stay. You can't remove us. So we'll find out if that can stand. But by the way, plenty of Somalis as citizens, uh, they're naturalized citizens. So to remove, you can denaturalize somebody, but you know, you would have to go through courts to make that happen. So here we go.
There are currently 500 Somalis in Minnesota living with these protections and a total of 700 nationwide. Many expect this to be challenged in court, but in the meantime, Somalis here say they are fearful of what's to come.
People are always going to be fearful, but we're telling our people we're greater than their fear. We have resilience. We're people that are brave.
When temporary status is revoked, federal law states it can't take effect earlier than 60 days after publication of that notice, and it has to come from the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem.
What the president is doing is un-American. It is not Minnesotan.
The Protected Status Program for Somalis was launched in 1991 by President George H.W. Bush. It grants protections to eligible people who can't return to their homeland safely due to civil war or natural disaster.
What did that Somali guy means by that's un-American? No, sir, that's very American. You better read the history properly. I'm not sure if he also was trying to say it's un-Islamic. America is not an Islamic country. So, yeah.
What we decided to do is to bring our community in the heart of in the Somali community here in Minnesota, which is Carmel Mall, to show that, you know, our neighbors are with us, Minnesotans are with us, and we're all together in this fight.
There's no word yet on if or when the removal of temporary status will take place, but experts say if someone is under temporary protected status from Somalia, to check with them on legal counsel to see what their options are. We're live in Minneapolis. Leon Purvis.
All right. You guys seen and heard that. Yeah. I mean, good luck to the Somalis. I don't know how this is going to end up, but that's what the news is. And as you guys know, earlier today, whether you know it or not, President Trump issued statement permanently banning all travels from third world countries after the shooting of two National Guards members. So please leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this story. I'll see you guys on the next one too. I'm out.